constituents are among the highest proportion of signatories to the first petition, keep the 5-year ILR pathway for existing skilled worker visa holders, because so many of whom are living with uncertainty, and that's a daily reality in my constituency. Mr. Chair, the government's immigration white paper proposes several measures that will make settlement significantly harder to reach for many people through its main proposals. Firstly, to increase the standard qualifying period for settlement from 5 years to 10 years, though the visa routes to which this will apply are not specifically specified. Secondly, by introducing the so-called earned model of settlement and citizenship, whereby a set of contributions to society and the economy would serve as eligibility criteria for being able to settle more quickly. Now, I understand that there are explicit exemptions for partners of British citizens who will continue to qualify after 5 years, and quite right also for victims of domestic abuse. However, having met and spoken with many of my constituents, urgent clarity is needed from the Minister today. Primarily on the following areas: precisely who will be affected by the proposals on the ILR in the immigration white paper? Will they be applied retrospectively to people already in the UK, including those approaching the end of a 5-year pathway to settlement? If a consultation is to take place in the autumn, who will this be with? Will the government meet with Praxis, an organisation that has collated numerous evidence and undertaken research, with whom I share a long-standing relationship in my borough, on immigration casework, and who had submitted a letter along with 100 other civil liberties organisations requesting a meeting with the government in May this year? When will the government conduct an equalities impact and human rights impact assessment of its proposals to extend the qualifying period to 10 years and introduce the so-called earned model? And how will the points under the so-called earned settlement proposal be calculated or expect to be earned? And also, how much of a reduction on the 10-year qualifying period will be available? These are incredibly important questions for which the answers are needed by my constituents and many people in our country. My constituents were already living in limbo before the immigration white paper was announced, but I have to say, given that the applicants on the ILR route have primarily, their claims have been based on the right to a family or private life, and given what we understand to be a temporary suspension of the family reunification scheme for refugees announced last week, which is of course separate to this, they are just feeling a lot more anxious than ever before about these matters. And I am indeed worried about the widening scope of legislation and frameworks around immigration and the direction overall. There is already a strenuous process in place, and the new proposals do beg the question of what the intention really is here, given that people on the existing 10-year routes have to apply for every 2.5 years until they complete 10 years of leave and are eligible for ILR in the first place. I do just want to, in the time that I have, just mention that there was one survey undertaken in 2023 by the Greater Manchester Immigration Aid Unit, the IPPR and Praxis, who said that 40% of those in work on the 10-year route were employed in health and social care settings, including as carers, nurses and cleaners. And this is to be of no surprise to many of us, given the history of migration in the UK from the Windrush generation to skilled workforces arriving in the immigration wave, including in the 1970s, like in my area. And the top 5 nationalities of applicants on these routes between 2016 and 2020 being from Nigeria, Pakistan, India, Ghana and Bangladesh, according to the International Migration Observatory's analysis of Home Office data. So I'm afraid to say it's no surprise, but it's no coincidence that in the recent period, in recent years, we've seen Black, Asian and minority ethnic people and women disproportionately suffer through the pandemic in terms of deaths, workplace rights and hardship. And of course that includes workers in health and social care settings. The pandemic laid bare these structures of inequality and discrimination. And we have to be very, very careful about the changes proposed to the ILR route for these reasons as well. I will, just before I conclude, just say that petitions are quite right to point out that the skilled worker route is the main UK work visa route, and that includes the health and care worker subcategory for NHS staff. And just to conclude, Mr. Chair, what we know of the proposed measures in the immigration white paper is that they appear to be punitive, The wide-ranging evidence suggests that the long pathways are detrimental to individuals and communities. No one should really be subject to them. And rather than exemptions for some and not for others, we need a thorough overhaul of settlement and citizenship pathways so that people can settle in the UK in both a timely and an affordable way. People do need to feel a sense of belonging and be able to fulfil their potential, and I fear that the proposals that are being put forward will undermine the resilience of our communities. Putting more people on these routes and extending the routes will multiply the effects that are already being had in our communities. And I will just end by saying in the East End of London, we have a proud history of welcoming people from all parts of the world, from all walks of life, whether it be from Europe or Bangladesh, Somalia, or even Hong Kong, because we know we are better for it. And I think that we need to really take a long, hard look at ourselves as to the proposals being put forward in the Immigration White Paper and change our direction. Thank you.